Well, hey everybody, it's Mike from Profiling Evil, and tonight I had the opportunity to join Duty Ron and Ed Wallace on the Duty Ron Show to talk about the crazy developments that are going on down in Delphi, Indiana. And I'll tell you what, crazy is an understatement. The defense released a great big 130 plus page report where they described that the murders of Abigail Williams and Libby German were actually committed by people who worshipped Odin, the mythical god. You remember him from the Marvel comics with Thor and Loki and Valhalla, Asgard. Hopefully you got it all down. But the defense has pitched a theory that based on things that they've recovered locally and from their examination of the records of the crime scene, the photographs and other kinds of things, they firmly believe that Odinists, those involved in the worship of Odin, which is a mythical deity. Some people may be offended by me saying a mythical deity because it makes its roots back to paganism and those pre-Christian beliefs of many gods. They believe that it was actually Odinists who were responsible for killing the two girls, and that Richard Allen, he's just a pawn in all of this, being intimidated by guards who are wearing in Odin We Trust name badges or patches on their shoulders. They're intimidating him in the jail. They are filming during interviews with their lawyers. And of course, if all of this is true, then the defense has maybe gotten onto something here that's going to really cast some suspicions upon the criminal justice system and upon the investigators in this case. We're going to dig into that a little bit, and we want to share with you some thoughts that we've had along the way. Well, hey folks, I wanted to just close this video out with a couple of clips from the Duty Ron Show and the things that we talked about. Specifically, I spoke about the challenge that law enforcement faces in looking at these kinds of cases and not letting the voodoo in things like now, Odinism being introduced into this case, get in the way of the evidence. I hope you'll really pay close attention to that as you make your own decisions up on whether Richard Allen is responsible for this case or whether he's a victim of circumstance, and that a conspiracy by Odinists is what really is causing his confession. And frankly, if all of this is true and the law enforcement folks lied about the information to get the search warrant, then the bullet's out and probably this case is down the tubes. But either way, I think the defense has made a brilliant move by introducing this voodoo into the mix because we have a really hard time wrapping our minds around it. And I talked about it on Duty Ron. I wanted to just play that segment real quickly.
You. Gosh, what an honor to be with you. I just love listening to you guys and your approach, and frankly, the sound approach that you have. And I guess that's what I really want to get across to folks as we look at this. And I used to face this a lot, Ron, when I would teach how to investigate cults and closed societies. Was that as tantalizing as the idea of a cult or chasing Satan is, what we're really good at is focusing on the elements of crime, and if those elements have been violated, and if there is a standard in place that we can then take that person and hand a case to a prosecutor and let that prosecutor run with it. And I'm I guess less troubled by some of the weird mistakes that you wouldn't even think about doing, like we're seeing a couple of mistakes in this case, some that are pretty egregious, like Ed was bringing out early on. I was listening as I was driving in. Those kinds of things really trouble you, but there's a tendency when you're dealing with occult-based or cult-based or closed society kinds of crimes is to focus too much on that aspect of the crime. And what I used to teach investigators is take all of that wacky stuff that's going on and just put it on a shelf for a season while you investigate the case and look at the case doing what you already know how to do, which is see if those elements of the crime are there, see if there's the evidence you need to produce the kinds of direction you're taking in the case, and not start building some wacky theory in your mind without having a bunch of evidence in front of you, but keep doing what cops should do, which is just gather facts and gather evidence. And then the place for the occult kind of stuff in those kinds of investigations, from my perspective, and I'm looking forward to hearing from the counselor here, because my opinion has always been save that till sentencing time to show aggravation or other kinds of things, but don't muddy the water with all that smoke and mirror stuff during the stages of the investigation. So the defense made a brilliant move bringing it up.
Melanie, over
Yes, I agree. I mean, there is so much here that it's just hard to ignore. And like I said at the beginning of this show, the only issue in this motion is whether or not the search warrant was obtained legally to search Allen's home. That is it. That is.
And part of that discussion, as you can see, started talking about these runes or the symbols and artifacts that were left at the murder scene. And I don't know if any of that's true. I haven't seen any of these images, and I suspect that they're pretty darn gruesome. Hopefully we never do see them, but hopefully also the prosecution and the investigators are going to be able to better explain what they saw and why they discounted it. But I wanted to share this thing on why I think it's so important not to focus on the things that you might find at a crime scene and make those the telltale answer to what's going on. Let's watch this.
The bending of the legs and other things becomes the posing. So you have staging and then you have posing. And each of those give us a little glimpse into the mindset of the predator and what they might be thinking. And Ron, if you have those pictures, this would be a great time to put it up, because basically we're making a lot of hay about symbols that we haven't seen. And some people have assigned those symbols as runes and said, this is a sign that it was Odinism, and this is an F. Well, it might be something that's just simply easy to understand and explain, like the guy tried to wipe off a stick that he was experimenting on the victim with, and one way wasn't cleaning it as much as maybe another way. That could quickly create an F. And I use this example here because this, in the mind of Sasquatch hunters, is absolute proof that Sasquatch exists. Now, to an arborist or a Forest Service firefighter, no, this is what wind does to brittle trees and branches and other kinds of things. And these things, as a natural course of what is going on in the environment, create what other people dream up to be proof that something evil or disdained is happening and going on. And I'm going to just end with this, and it's a personal experience I had when I was chasing Satan for so many years. On one particular occasion, I got a phone call that in the middle of central Utah, that a helicopter, a black helicopter no less, in the middle of the night with alien spaceships came in and wiped out a herd of cattle. And those cattle had beautiful surgical lines. And I remember I was brand new at doing cult investigations, and I went out and heard this wild tale of this cult that was out there systematically cutting the eyes out of the cows and removing the uterus out of the cows. And I happened to get out to this place with a fish and game cop that was old and seasoned. And I'm looking at it and I'm going, holy cow, it does look surgical. And he like slugged me and he said, have you never seen a dead animal that's starting to bloat and it's going to pull the skin and make it look surgical? And he said, the first thing a coyote's going to go to are the soft, squishy parts of the body to remove them. And he said, and then you're missing a really important clue. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And he says, if you look around the head of the cow, there's a whole bunch of magpie mess from the magpies sitting on top of this thing, removing the eyes. And all of a sudden, what was voodoo was simply explainable.
Well, there you go, folks, from beautiful Orlando, Florida, on the morning of Crime Con. And by the way, if you're at Crime Con, make sure you hunt me down and that we say hello and shoot a picture and just chat a little bit. But from beautiful Orlando, thanks so much for your support of Profiling Evil. Please go over to Duty Ron. Subscribe if you haven't subscribed, and I can't believe it if you haven't. And make sure that you're listening to Ron and Ed Wallace. And now, having Melanie on was just a blast, and I hope she's doing great. And check out her channel, because it is really a good channel, and I think it's going to grow quickly. But from all of us at Profiling Evil, thanks for your support. Make sure you're hitting that like and subscribe button. Ring the bell and do all that stuff that you need to do. And again, check me out on Court TV tonight live with Vinnie Politan from Crime Con. And let's just find some time to chat if you're here at the conference. Thanks again, and we'll see you soon at the next crime scene.